Thank you. Thank you. So one caution, what I'm talking about today is Hamilton County specific voting. Most or a lot of what I'm going to be talking about applies in Ohio, regardless of what county, whether it's Warren County or Butler County. There's just a few that are specific to Hamilton. But if you live in Kentucky, it has nothing to do with you, and you should probably leave now so you don't get confused. The voting rules are very much done by state, and they are so different that it gets people confused if you try to talk about both. So, I don't think I'm going to be able to move the slides from here. It looks like. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. First of all, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters. For you that aren't familiar with the organization, we are over 100 years old now. The League was formed by the suffragists who fought long and hard to give women the right to vote in the United States. And once that right was confirmed in 1920, then they turned the organization into a League of Women Voters that would help educate and encourage the new voters. So we've been working for over 100 years. The voter guides that I brought with me were originally produced in 1921, was the first volume that we have. So we've been doing that same presentation for over 100 years now. We are a membership organization. All the work is done by volunteer members in the local league. We do have a part-time office manager who tries to keep us straight. Got it? Yeah, it's not moving at all.
Yeah, it's really strange.
Stop the recording.
There we go. You did it. Thank you, Danny. maybe it just gives it. The League is a membership organization. It's done by volunteers. We are a nonpartisan organization. And what that means is that the League would never favor a candidate or party, but we do take positions on issues. We try really hard to keep a distinction between our voter education, voter service work, and our advocacy work. What I'm doing today is voter education. So don't ask me what the League's position is on anything, because I'm not going to talk about that any more than I would talk about what my own opinions or positions are. But there is information, and League does do advocacy, but that's separate than the voter education work. And that's important to us. I mean, it's important for us that when we do things like the voter guide and we give presentations, that people can be confident that we're not trying to persuade them one way or another. We want them to be knowledgeable about what it is that they're voting on. Okay, timeline for the election. We've already moved. The registration deadline is passed. Early voting started yesterday, October 8th, and will go through October. Now is the time to request a mail-in ballot if you have not done that. The Board of Elections started sending out mail-in ballots this week, so folks who have previously requested them should start getting them in the mail in the next few days. But you can still continue to request those ballots. Just don't wait till that deadline, because it's really hard to get them back and forth if you wait till the final day to do it. So if you intend to mail in, do it quickly. And then election day is November 5th. And the mail-in ballots have to be mailed by then, but they give them 4 extra days to get back. So I'm not going to cover much about registration because the registration deadline is closed, but I will just make the highlight that in Ohio, you can register to vote online if you have an Ohio driver's license or a state ID. Okay. But it is very convenient, takes a few minutes to register to vote online. That's not possible in a whole lot of states. And so that is one benefit that we have here in Ohio. Okay, there are also 3 ways to vote in Ohio. So I'm going to walk through these and give you a chance to ask questions. I wanted to give some background on voting and give folks a chance to have questions answered before I move into the ballot itself. So we can vote by mail in Ohio. You do have to apply in writing. You have to sign the request, the application, use the form that the Board of Elections have. You have to apply by October 29th, but if you don't apply until then, it'd be real hard to get it back and forth in time because you apply by mail and then they will send you the ballot and then you have to get it back to them either through the mail or by dropping it off at the Board of Elections office in Norwood for Hamilton County. But the one benefit of voting by mail, in addition to the fact you don't have to go places, is that no photo ID is required if you're voting by mail. You just need to put your last 4 digits of your social security on it. So if someone has trouble with an ID, I've talked to folks that are very worried that they don't have the proper ID, then a good suggestion to those folks is please, consider voting by mail because you don't need the voter ID. You can vote early in person. That's what people are doing now. There is only one location. It's in Norwood for Hamilton County. Each one of the counties, Butler County, Warren County, Claremont County, have one location where folks can go in to vote by mail, vote early in person. I love that. I've been doing that for years now. It's a fun thing to do. You can make it in sort of a party and invite your friends and go out to lunch afterwards. The people there at the Board of Elections, it's very efficient and they are so glad to see you. They make you really feel welcome. And they are also the experts that if your poll workers will call if they have any questions. And so again, if anyone is a little uncertain or unsure that they have the right ID or the right whatever, they're voting in the right place, going to the Board of Elections is a really good idea because you're going to be talking to the experts who answer the questions and who really want you to be able to vote, and we'll try to make a way for you to be able to do that. And then election day, I know a lot of people still prefer going to their local precinct, their polling place on election day and seeing their neighbors on November 5th. But you do need the photo IDs if you vote in person, either early or at your polling place. Yes, Margie.
I have a question. I'm not sure. No. Do you know when the mail and the early votes are counted?
They are counted first.
Are they counted on election day?
They're counted on election day, but they are counted first. Okay, they go in before they even add the polling place results that they get back, but they do not count them until the election day. Yeah. Okay. I have a slide just about the photo ID because it's relatively new in Ohio and it is a limited number of IDs that you can use. It has to be the Ohio driver's license or a state ID card that you would get from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. You can use a passport now, or the military IDs. The veterans ID that you can use is only the VA, the Federal Veterans Administration ID. It's not there are other counties and places that issue veterans IDs. Those don't work. It has to be the federal one for it to work. And those are the only ones that you can use as your photo ID to vote. It has to be unexpired. A few people go in to vote and all of a sudden they're told, sorry, but did you know your license expired last month? The address though does not have to match your current address. I don't know, 2 years ago when it was a big deal that your address matched. That's no longer the case. It doesn't matter if your ID address does not match your voting address. What is very important is that it has a picture of you that looks like you and that it's unexpired. Okay. If you do not have one of these proper IDs with you, they will offer you a provisional ballot that you can vote. And people need to do that. That simply means that it goes same ballot that other people use, but it goes in a separate envelope, doesn't go in the regular count. It goes to the Board of Elections and you have then the 4 days to come to the Board of Elections with the proper ID. So, but if you don't have it, if you don't have an ID, you can't go with it. So the vote will not count if you don't have the ID. But if you have it, but you just don't have it with you, I would usually suggest that people go home and get it and come back and vote. But it is possible to vote provisional and then show up at the Board of Elections within the next 4 days. Okay. It's amazing. A lot of people sort of forget that the passport works. They get really flustered and say sorry. And it's like, do you have a passport? A lot of the students will have passports, but will not have driver's license or other ID that works. And they have to go dig those out. Okay, the early voting calendar started yesterday. The first 2 weeks, it's pretty much business hours, 8 to 5. The second 2 weeks, it goes into evening hours, into 6, and then the last week it goes into 8:30 some evenings, 7:30 or 8:30, and then the 2 weekends right before the election. But do note there is no early voting on the Monday before Election Day. Used to be, but that no longer is the case. So Monday is the day the Board of Elections folks are busy setting up for the polls. So the last day to go to the Board of Elections to vote is that Sunday, November 3rd. Okay. And interestingly, that calendar works throughout the state of Ohio. So again, regardless of what county you're in, it's exactly the same schedule. The counties don't set it separately. It's exactly the same hours for every Board of Elections in every county. And as far as the education resources for voting, I brought a whole bunch of the league voter guides. It is available in all of the branch libraries in Hamilton County. I volunteered at the league office on Monday, and I took at least 4 calls from people saying, I called my library and they don't have it. Well, it was delivered last week to the central distribution point, and it was on the trucks on the way to the branches. I think by today, Wednesday, it's probably in all the branch libraries. But all of I think they have 42 branches, will have stacks of the voter guides. We have tens of thousands in our office right now that we would love your help in distributing. I brought a whole bunch of bundles that I'm hoping you will take with you. Take 50, take 100, take 200. And think of places to give them. A lot of churches distribute them at their churches. Leaving just stacks of them at coffee shops or beauty shops or wherever, grocery stores, wherever people are willing to have you leave information. My neighbor is a doctor and he asked for copies for his 2 waiting rooms to take. So please take some with you and think of places to get them out. It has information about the candidates, but it's a really good reminder to folks about voting and being sure that they vote. I mean, I like it almost more as even that encouragement and that reminder as much as the practical, who are the candidates information. We do have an online version. It's called Vote 411. It's vote411.org. It's a National League of Women Voters platform that we put in our local information. And it will contain more information even than what we're able to squeeze into that print voter guide. So you'll find more information. Some of the candidates don't make the deadline. So if they're not in the print, we're able to get them up online. But try it out. It also has some voting information on it, but it has the candidate, gives you a chance to compare the candidates in each one of the races. And the other thing I would recommend to everyone is that you print off a sample ballot from the Board of Elections website. It's really easy to do. Their front page has an option to view your sample ballot. And you just put in your address. They don't even need your name. Put in your address, and it will print up in a PDF version exactly what your ballot will look like. An exact version of your ballot. And you can print that off. And it's really good. Our guide goes throughout Hamilton County, which means you're not in some of those districts. And if you want to know exactly which districts and which candidates you will be voting on, if you live in a jurisdiction that has a special school levy or something like that, you'll be able to see that by printing off your own personal that ballot from the Board of Elections. And each one of the Board of Elections, you're able to do that on their website. Okay. My recommendation is to print off the ballot, check the boxes of the candidates you know you're gonna vote for, you're familiar with and you know you're gonna vote for. And the ones you're not sure, then you can go do your research, either through the voter guide or vote 411 or by talking to friends and family. So, okay, let me just pause here a minute. Are there other questions just about the voting process before I get into running down the ballot? And some of the things on the ballot. Anybody? I think you're all pretty educated and familiar with it. No questions about absentee voting or anything else? Okay. Let's talk about the ballot then. I'm going to walk down these. I'm not going to have a lot of information, but I do want to just use this one slide to walk down. It may be helpful for you to follow in the newsprint version to see the candidates, or we'll ask for a little audience participation. If some of you can give me the names of who's running in some of these contests, we can just walk through them. I'm not going to talk about the president because 99% of what you hear in the media is about that election. So I'm going to skip that one. I think we've all heard a whole lot about it. Ohio has one senator that's running. Who's running for Senate?
Moreno and Sanders.
Sherrod Brown and Marino. Okay, you each had one. Okay, Sherrod Brown and Marino. Thank you. And then in Hamilton County, we have two congressional districts. The east side of the county is matched with Warren County. Who's running for Congress in that? I think it's the first district. Landsman, and who's running against Landsman? Sansa, very good. And in the western side of the county, who's running for Congress? Very good. Enoch and Davidson. Very good. Looking at those districts, you can sort of see the idea of gerrymandering, where Hamilton County is big enough to have one congressional district and it's in the county for the whole county, but instead it's been split in two and it's matched with counties north of us to form the districts. Okay, in Ohio, we have the legislature, the General Assembly. We have state senators running. Actually, I keep getting confused because I don't have a state senator running. There is one of the senators in Hamilton County that is up for re-election. Do you see that in the voter guide? Who's running?
Louis Blessing III and Timothy Hogan.
Okay, Hogan and Blessing. That's the east. That's pretty much the western side of the county, and then it swings. The district looks strange. It has a handle that swings all over the north, the small strip around the north side of the county, and then a lot of the western side of the county makes up that district. The other state senators are not up for re-election. And then we have the state representatives, and we have quite a few of them. You will see in the voter guide that none of the Republicans decided to provide information to the League of Women Voters to put into the voter guide. I think that was sort of organized by the state Republicans who are very mad at the state League of Women Voters office because of some of the gerrymandering and some of the other lawsuits that they have filed. So they sort of organized and decided they weren't going to provide us the information. We can only use what the folks give us. But you'll see, I think there are 4 districts. Is that what it looks like? That have state representatives running.
No, it's 6.
How many do you?
Looks like 6.
6 districts? 7? Okay. Okay. So, we won't call out all those names, but yeah. I'm going to skip right now the issue 1, the one issue. I'm going more information on that. And then we have the justices of the Supreme Court. There are several Supreme Court justices running. And they're more interesting races, I think, than what have been in the past. They've been given a lot of media Press, who's running for Supreme Court Justice? Do you see that?
Donnelly, Shanahan, Dieters, Stewart.
Yep. I believe it's four justice races, is that?
You mean Donnelly, Shanahan, Dieters, and Stewart?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Now, in these cases, you vote for just one or two or what? Thought we were voting for three.
What,
There's three races. looks like.
whatever is in there, I'm not gonna say I know for sure right off. Does it show 3 or does it show 2? It shows 4, okay, then it's 4.
I think it's showing Donnelly and Shanahan, then Dieters and Stewart, and then Forbes and Hawkins.
The Forbes and Hawkins are separate. But there's 4, it's both of them, one of them, is that it? Oh, there's an unexpired term, I see.
Do you see it? Okay, I'm getting my ballot is why I'm going over here. Because this is the absolute. Okay, did you get it? So there are 4? Yep, okay.
You vote
It,
for three. How many do you vote for? 3. So it's Donnelly against Shanahan, Dieters against Stewart, Forbes against Hawkins.
mhm. That is what the ballot shows. Yep. 3, and you vote for 1 on each one of them, but everybody has those 3 races. It's not by district. So all of you will have those 3 Supreme Court justice races.
I still don't understand. There's one that's separate, that's unexpired. That's a separate one. You vote for one, I guess.
Right.
The other, there's 4 there.
They're running separately. Donnelly's running against Shanahan and Dieters is running against Stewart.
Oh, because it's
Yeah,
not.
that's full term starting January 1st and one full term starting January 2nd. for some reason.
Right.
I don't know why, what's the one day difference?
Got it.
That's just to show that they're different seats,
Oh, okay.
different positions, different seats. Right. Same job. But,
Yeah.
okay, are we together on that? 3 races you will vote for. Each one has 2 people running in it, and you vote for 1. Okay, do you see what I did? It gets confusing maybe in the voter guide because of the information. I went and got my ballot. This is what I'm going to be voting on, so it will tell you absolutely. Okay. There also are Court of Appeals judges running. Hamilton County is 1 district. Those are district judges, but we're all 1 district. So there's a number of Court of Appeals judges running. I put on the tables there, the Bar Association and the League are doing a forum this evening with the judicial candidates. We've done this for a number of years. In the past, we've called it Who Are You to Judge? So that is this evening. The judges are going to be in person at the Bar Association office, but it's available on Zoom, and then it's being also live streamed through the Facebook. It's a really good way to get a sense of what you think about the judges, their temperament by listening to them, because what party a judge is less important often than whether or not they're really going to be able to have that judicial temperament, that patience that is required in order to really do a good job as a judge. So we have the Court of Appeals judges. I'm going over to Hamilton County then on that line real quickly. We have the counties have 3 commissioners in Ohio. 2 of them in Hamilton County are running. Alicia Reese and Denise Driehaus are both up for re-election and have at least 1 candidate running against each one of them. We also have prosecuting attorney and sheriff races. This is probably the race that has created the most heat as far as people commenting about each other. You also get a lot of flyers where they're bad mouthing their opponent. But it's really interesting to have such a hot prosecuting attorney race. And the sheriff's race in Hamilton County is worthy of a soap opera. So, you know, there's a whole backstory of the two candidates. And, but that is ongoing. And we again have Jim Neal and Charmaine McGuffey running for sheriff one more time. The only positions here that are not contested are the coroner and county engineer. There's only one person on the ballot for each. I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't that long ago that in Hamilton County, most of the elections, you'd only have one person on the ballot to vote for. Now, everyone except the coroner and county engineer has challengers, you know, on their races. I reviewed the Warren County ballot. We have a League of Women Voters unit that meets in Warren County. Almost every one of their races is not contested. There's only one candidate for almost every one of these county positions that are up for re-election. So it's really been a change in Hamilton County to have competitive elections where you can really look at the candidates and choose. We also have the clerk of courts running, the treasurer, the auditor positions are open. And we have judges, the common pleas judges, that's the trial court. That's the one that actually looks like what you see on TV, where you have juries and you have people, criminals being prosecuted or civil trials. That's really a position where you need somebody with patience and knowledge and good demeanor and a sense of integrity and objectivity to listen. The Cincinnati Bar Association does a survey of attorneys for their opinions about candidates, all the judicial candidates. And I just noticed this morning that it has been published. The results of this survey is published on the Bar Association's website. It's a lot of information because they have several criteria, including legal experience, professionalism, or judicial demeanor, and community engagement. On each one of those, they show you how the attorneys voted for it. So it takes a little while to study it to get a sense. And it's only, remember, it's only one segment of our community that's doing that evaluation, that opinion, but it is a good way to get a sense of what the attorneys think about their peers and about the judges that are running, the candidates that are running and those that are sitting as judges and up for re-election. I do recommend that. Okay. Let's move on to the more complicated issues that are on the ballot. There's only one state issue, and that's issue one and only. And that's the constitutional amendment about gerrymandering again. It's what civic groups that formed a coalition called Citizens Not Politicians collected signatures earlier this year, actually from starting in January through August, collected petition signatures to get it on the ballot. They got more than enough signatures. So the amendment is currently on the ballot. It would create an independent commission to draw the voting lines, the district lines, and it removes politicians from that commission. The intention is to prevent gerrymandering. We've talked so much in Ohio about gerrymandering in the last 5-10 years. I think most people understand it now, but it basically means that the electoral districts are drawn so that the party who's drawing them, the party in power, is able to manipulate them to their advantage and to pack the districts in a way that they then have an advantage in the election. We did vote as voters in both 2015 and 2018 to curb gerrymandering. And that created what we currently have is a 7-person bipartisan redistricting commission, which is composed of elected politicians. And they're the ones that drew the current district lines that we're using. These district lines have been ruled unconstitutional by the Ohio Supreme Court several times, but they kept going back and they ran out the clock, and we didn't have a choice but to use the last one that was on the table. So that's what we have now. The same civic groups that got those, 2015, 2018 changes passed are the same groups that basically have said it didn't work, we tried, but it didn't work, and so they've gone back and now have this proposal on the table. It creates a 15-member Ohio redistricting commission. It would have 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 5 independents. And it bans current or former politicians or political party officials, lobbyists, and their relatives, their close relatives, from serving on the commission. It requires that the districts not discriminate against or favor any political party or individual, and it needs to operate in a transparent manner according to this proposed constitutional amendment. So the next question is, sometimes I tried to skip this because I didn't want to go into too much detail, and it's always the first question I get. Well, how do you get on that commission? How do you get citizens that are not politicians on it? So this slide tells you about the eligibility. You have to be a registered voter for at least, and with residency in Ohio for at least 6 years. The folks that are ineligible are those we talked about, that they served in a partisan position, candidate for elected office, whether or not they got elected. They're registered as a lobbyist over the past 6 years, or they're family members, they're direct family members. The selection process begins with retired judges. Those retired judges, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, are selected by the 4 legislative appointees of the Ohio Ballot Board. Ohio Ballot Board is a position agency that currently exists, but interestingly, it is two political appointees, but they have to pick from the opposite party. So they have to pick a retired judge. The Republican members have to pick 2 Democratic retired judges, and the others have to pick the other side. So you end up with these 4 retired judges, and they would oversee this open application process where anyone would be invited to apply to be a member of the Citizen Redistricting Commission. And they would vet the folks and select 45 that they consider eligible, qualified candidates for the job. And then 6 out of those 45, that pool of 45, would be chosen at random. So the first 6 are chosen at random, and then those 6 would choose the other 9 in order to make up that balance of 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, 5 independents. Okay, and then the commission would begin the map making process next year in 2025 for use in the 2026 election. Okay, yes.
Republicans was easy to pick out, Democrats were easy to pick out. What determines an independent?
Somebody who is not registered as a Republican or Democrat. And the way we become a Republican or a Democrat is by voting in a primary. So it's somebody who is not listed as those candidates. And I don't know, Dave, there may be some more, how long ago would you had to not have voted in a partisan primary in order to be still considered an independent? I'm sure that there's specifics, but I'm not sure what it is. Yeah.
Independent never vote a primary.
In a partisan primary. Sometimes there is, quote, a primary election, and you can ask for an issues only ballot, but you would not have gone in and said, I want a Republican or a Democrat ballot. Yeah, in Ohio, you don't register with a party. When you register to vote, you don't list a party. You become registered as a Republican or with the party when you go ask for that ballot, when you go to vote in a primary. Yeah, Mark?
The statute does talk about limiting people who have not recently served in various capacities. Does it define what recently is?
Yes, it is, but I think you would have to read the entire thing. I don't know what that is, Mark. I cannot answer that detail. Yes.
Will people be paid to serve on this
My understanding is it's not like a job where you get a full-time pay. They will be compensated for their service, you know, when they're attending meetings and for things like that. So there is some pay that will happen. They also will be hiring consultants that will be paid, that are experts in the map drawing and the GIS systems and things like that. Yeah, Ro Ellen.
So the 6 randomly chosen commissioners, when they go to choose the remaining, is there a criteria that they use?
They have to end up with 5, 5, and 5. So that's the only criteria that it would have to, you know, out of that pool. They're using that pool. They're not just going out into the public
Those people are already qualified in that.
pool. Right, right. But the 6, you know, because they're selected randomly, they could all be the same party or they could be all independents. So yeah, they would have to select in order to make it equal. One other slide. They may have other positions. And just, I did this based on what I'm hearing as far as the arguments. The folks that are opposed to this, some of their opposition is that it's too complicated, and you can tell by the detailed questions. It is a complicated process that is extremely detailed. Some folks don't like that amount of detail in the Constitution. The commissioners are not elected. I mean, but it's the whole idea of citizens, not politicians. But there have been a lot of accusations that that means they're not accountable, that we have elected positions because folks then are accountable to the voters. And there is concern that this independent commission would not be accountable to the voters. And also it replaces the current system that was overwhelmingly approved by voters not that many years ago. So those are what I'm hearing is the major arguments, and probably a lot of others that you may be aware of. The folks that are proposing this and encouraging a vote yes on one, they say the current system did not work because the politicians ignored the Constitution. It gets the politicians who are affected by the redistricting out of the process. In other words, their jobs are being affected by how you draw those lines, and you have to get those people who have that conflict of interest out of it. And that it was developed by a bipartisan team, and it's supported by civic groups because they feel it would result in fair districts. There is the sense that it has become, you know, sort of Republicans oppose it, Democrats are pushing it. There are a whole lot of folks on both sides of those parties who feel differently about it. The Ohio Republican governors that former governors have come out in favor of it, saying vote yes. And there are Republicans that helped to draft the language of it. But it is true because the Republicans are now in power, they're more likely to say vote no, where the Democrats currently are not in power, they're more likely to say yes. But the truth of the matter is gerrymandering happens regardless of what party. Whoever's in power is going to use it. So states that are very Democratic are using it and have very bad gerrymandering. League of Women Voters has tried to reform the system for decades and decades. We had one great proposal that was shot down totally by the Democrats in Ohio when they were in power. So it very much is who's in power now, and is it a challenge to that? Yeah, Margie.
Yeah, one of the things that, you know, the rumors go out as a con, and I don't know where it is, but maybe you could address it, is that this would somehow open it up for foreign money and foreigner leadership to take over.
Yeah,
Could you repeat the question? Yeah, one of the rumors that I hear out there is that by the people who are against it, is that if it passes, it would somehow open it up for foreign money and foreign influence to control it.
yeah, Margie, I think where that's coming from, the foreign influence piece, is that, like I said, the groups, the coalition, the Citizens Not Politicians coalition has been working, you know, last year, and then, you know, started collecting signatures this year. Early on, their campaign had some money that did come from folks from another country that supported what they considered democratic proposals throughout the United States. And so the people who didn't like the proposal hit on that really hard, that was wrong. And they actually passed a law in Ohio that was attached to the budget bill that did pass and go into effect, saying that on a citizen initiated petition like this, initiative that's going on the ballot, that there can be no non-citizen money in it, which meant that they had to totally redo their campaign, the citizens, not politicians, and set up separate accounts. And many groups, many nonprofit groups that really weren't able to do that, they couldn't swear that their money, they never asked their donors whether they were citizens or not. And so they could not use their funding to help support the campaign. And so that was sort of it hasn't been talked about a lot, but it was one of the sort of barriers that were thrown in the way of this campaign, to make it slow down.
But now that's impossible,
Well,
according to the rules.
yeah, I mean, you can have non-citizen money in any political campaign unless it's a citizen initiated,
But this one can't because it's citizen.
that's right. In the campaign, yeah, yes. This one cannot.
Are you gonna address the ballot language issue on this?
We can do that if you like. You will notice when you get your ballot that the language is very much looks like it's written by somebody who wants you to vote no. It's very spun in that way. The people on the ballot board really didn't want it to pass because they're the politicians that, the legislators that are now in power. So they did sue over it. The proposal was, and the court basically picked a couple things that they had written and said, those are outright lies. You got to change that, take that out. But then they said the rest of it clearly is intended to convince people to vote no. But, it's not really lying, so we're not going to find it as illegal. But you will find that the ballot language very much sounds like it was written by folks who didn't want it to pass. Which is confusing voters. I mean, instead of just having a straight objective description of it, I mean, the intent is to confuse voters. And that has carried out in the signs. I don't know if folks have seen vote no signs. The vote yes signs say, vote yes on issue 1, ban gerrymandering. The vote no signs say, vote no on issue 1, stop gerrymandering. It's, yeah. So it has confused voters as well. Which way do I vote if I think there's a problem? And it's very clear. If you think the current system is working and is okay, then you vote no. If you want this change, then you would vote yes. Other questions on it? That's interesting. Okay. Let me go on. There are 2 Hamilton County levies on the ballot also. Okay. And if you live in Cincinnati, this is all that will be on the ballot as far as issues is the 1 state issue and the 2 levies. They're both renewals. They won't raise taxes, but they are expiring. One is what they call Family Services and Treatment Levy, which is basically an alcohol and drug use addiction money that is used primarily with the courts, the sheriff. It's controlled by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. A lot of the contracting is done through Talbot House here in Hamilton County. And it was recommended by the Tax Levy Review Committee, which is a really neat device that Hamilton County has to look at those groups that are getting levy funding and to actually do full management financial audits of them when they're requesting a renewal. And so, and then they recommend to the county commissioners who actually will put it on the ballot. Was recommended for a renewal. And the other one is the Developmental Disabilities Levy. Again, it's a renewal, won't increase taxes. It provides for both children and adults with disabilities. And it is managed by the Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services Group. And then it provides for a whole number of different services for folks with developmental disabilities. And it was also recommended by the Tax Levy Review Committee. Their costs clearly have increased. They're serving more people and the costs overall have gone up. But they have a fair reserve left over from the pandemic money, the stimulus money that they got. And so the decision was made not to recommend an increase at this time, but for this 5-year renewal, let them spend down their reserves. But it was clear that by the next renewal, they're going to need to, if they want to continue that level of service, they're going to have to increase the levy. But they're both on the ballot as renewals. Yes, Dave?
So this tax levy review committee, they're sort of verifying that they're okay financially, that there's nothing,
Both financial,
there's nothing wrong with their,
exactly, how they spent the money, and it's both a financial audit and it's also a management audit. Are they managed in a way that, is effectively using the services? They hire consultants to do those reviews, and they're pretty strict on it. There's not a Cincinnati school levy on the ballot, so if you're in Cincinnati, you won't see anything else. But I did want to highlight that if you're in another jurisdiction in Hamilton County, there are 5 school levies, public school levies on the ballot, including Miramont, Princeton. All of these are additional funding for schools. None of these are just renewals. These are all additional. Mount Healthy is in fiscal emergency. Their last levy was passed in 2003. And if the sense is, if this does not pass this time, they may not be able to survive as a school district. Wyoming is going for a facilities bond issue. They've had a lot of community input into changing their schools, building new elementary schools. And Milford decided they do have property taxes supporting their schools. They need additional money, but instead of asking for a property tax increase, they're going for an earnings income tax increase in order to pay for schools. Public school funding has become a real issue for most school districts in Ohio, as more and more of the state money is going into vouchers in private and parochial schools. And the public schools are hurting and have to go to the local community to ask for levies and other financial support. So that's why it's important to run that sample ballot. If you live in these jurisdictions, you'll be able to see that you have those schools on the ballot. Okay, I am at the end. I don't need to tell you guys why to vote because you're here. You would not be here if you were not interested in it. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for voting. And I encourage you to pick up copies of those voter guides, 100 or more. Yes.
Sorry, just a couple of questions. Can you repeat the judges event that's tonight? And then,
It's on the table. It's that flyer on the table.
thank you. And then, what did you say about the prosecutor? Like saying stuff about the judges as a resource?
Well, not as a resource, simply that the two people running for prosecuting attorney have been sniping at each other and sniping at the judges quite a lot, and it's been reported in the press. It's sort of what I would consider a hot race. Some of them are very polite and boring. Some races, this particular one has gotten hot and has gotten a lot of media attention.
I meant to, like, I think you meant, maybe I just imagined this, but like you said something about like discovering the judges' temperament.
The survey that the Bar Association does. Yep. And that's an attorney survey that they do, that they publish the results of. And it's just asking attorneys, what do you think about these? Each one of these candidates, rate them on these criteria.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, in the judges' races, the only ones that are nonpartisan this time are the county police judges, is that correct?
That's correct. And what that means is that the party designation won't be on your ballot. You'll notice in the voter guide, they do have a party designation because many of them appeared in primaries. So the parties, but the ballot, technically common pleas judges are a nonpartisan race, and so they're not. I've gotten myself into a couple arguments. People will call the League of Women Voters office when I'm there volunteering saying, well, what are the parties of these judges? And I said, I'm not going to tell you. You call the party office and they'll tell you. It's supposed to not matter. Look up who the people are. Roellen, I'll turn it back over to you. I don't know if there's other.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was excellent. I know I learned a lot and makes you really anxious to get out there and vote. So we just have the two reminders that Daniel had talked about before. The Mark Fall Planning Conference will be the third week of November. Details to be confirmed and sent out later. Delegates Council, next meeting Wednesday, December 11th. I can't believe we're talking about December already. And are there any questions? Anything that,
I think just one person hasn't signed in yet, so if you haven't signed in, if you could meet me out in the hallway, that'd be great.
okay, please see Holly to sign in. Anything for the good of the order from anyone? All right, yes, sir.
So there won't be a regular meeting in November, just the planning conference, right?
Correct. Okay. Thanks for asking that. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? All right. Well, stay safe, drive carefully, and we will see you next time. Meeting is adjourned. Vote.